no, it isn't said that I won't be back. This is just this bit. And it's as long as I can hold out, because it's quite exhausting, you know.
Breakfast at Tiffany's almost looked completely different. While the movie is a charming romantic comedy with a happy ending, the true story from Truman Capote's novella is much darker. It's a tale of criminal activities, dangerous secrets, and a character who was far more complex than the one we know. Hollywood turned a story about survival and exploitation into a sanitized version of one of literature's most controversial characters. They erased the gay characters, removed the criminal plot, and completely changed the ending. The truth is much darker than you think. Truman Capote's novella took a strange and sometimes scandalous path before it became a classic. In early 1958, Capote struck a $2,000 deal with Harper's Bazaar to publish it. That would be about $23,000 today. The plan included a full photo spread by the famous photographer David Addy. However, the Hearst Corporation, which owned the magazine, deemed the story unsuitable. They feared losing important advertisers, including Tiffany's itself, and suddenly canceled the feature. Capote was furious. The decision sent ripples through the publishing world, but Capote quickly turned the near disaster into a triumph. He sold the novella to Esquire for $3, about $43,600 today. It appeared in their November 1958 issue, creating instant excitement. Just weeks earlier, Random House had published it as a hardcover book, which sold out quickly. The unusual double release turned a near disaster into a cultural event, making Capote not just a literary star but a social celebrity. The success brought unwanted attention. Newspapers called it the Holly Golightly sweepstakes, as women across New York stepped forward claiming to be the real Holly. The boldest was a folk singer and bookstore owner named Bonnie Golightly, who sued Capote in 1959. She demanded $800,000 for libel and invasion of privacy, saying every detail in the story matched her life, including her name. Capote dismissed the case as absurd, and the press mocked it relentlessly. The lawsuit eventually collapsed, but the spectacle only added to Holly's mystique. For years after, imitators kept surfacing, each eager to tie their identity to the famous character. This drama reached another twist when Pulitzer Prize winner James Mashener wrote a private letter to Random House, saying Capote had told him Holly was based on a witty young woman from Montana. Capote, fearing a lawsuit from this woman, ordered Mashener to destroy the letter immediately. This hidden episode revealed how deeply Capote feared losing control of the story and how fiction and real life kept colliding. The Hollywood version added its own battles. Capote wanted Marilyn Monroe for the role of Holly. He had written the novella with her in mind, even describing Holly with Monroe's look in his head. Monroe herself wanted to do it, but her acting coach warned her that playing a lady of the evening would harm her image. Monroe walked away, leaving Capote devastated. He later said the studio's decision to cast someone else made me want to throw up. The part finally reached Audrey Hepburn, but she hesitated, worried she was too reserved to play such an extroverted character. The search for her partner, Paul Varjak, was also unsettled, with Jack Lemmon and Robert Wagner considered before George Peppard was chosen. Hepburn's experience during filming was far from easy. She admitted she felt terrified the entire time, struggling with anxiety and sleeping poorly. She nearly backed out altogether. Director Blake Edwards flew to Switzerland, where she was resting after giving birth, to persuade her in person, joined by her husband, agent, and mother. They assured her that Edwards' approach would soften the character, making her appealing rather than scandalous. Only then did Hepburn finally agree to step into the role, a decision that led to one of the most iconic performances in Hollywood history. When Breakfast at Tiffany's opened in October 1961, no one expected what happened next. The film had a limited release in only 5 major U.S. cities, but it went straight to the #1 spot at the U.S. box office, where it stayed for 5 weeks in a row. That kind of streak was rare at the time. It held its ground against tough competition, including West Side Story, which would later dominate the Academy Awards. On a budget of $2.5 million, the film grossed $14 million during its initial run. An unusually high $10 million came from international markets, showing how a romantic comedy could cross borders with Hepburn's elegance and the glamour of New York appealing to audiences worldwide. Behind the scenes, however, the film carried a controversy that would haunt it for decades. The part of Mr. Yunioshi, a Japanese character, was given to Mickey Rooney, a white actor. Paramount Pictures created a fake promotional name, Ohio Argatu, which meant good morning and thank you, in Japanese, to make the casting appear authentic and avoid early backlash. Rooney's portrayal in heavy makeup, fake buck teeth, and with taped eyelids has since been called the godfather of the Ching Chong stereotype. Even the film's screenwriter, George Axelrod, objected, and Audrey Hepburn herself offered to reshoot scenes for free in hopes of editing the character out entirely. The studio refused. Decades later, the damage was still being discussed. In the 1993 film Dragon: The Bruce Lee Story, there is a scene where Bruce Lee goes to see Breakfast at Tiffany's. As Rooney's performance begins, Lee looks distressed and eventually leaves the theater, underlining how painful the portrayal was for Asian viewers. Blake Edwards himself later admitted deep regret, saying he wished he had never done it. Truman Capote never imagined Holly Golightly the way most people remember her. In his novella, she was not the charming, glamorous figure that Audrey Hepburn made iconic. Capote described her as an American geisha, a woman whose life depended on escorting wealthy men who in return were expected to give her gifts. It was an arrangement where a diamond bracelet or a check could be handed over as easily as a smile. Even the small details in the novella carried hidden meaning. Holly's request for $50 for the powder room sounded innocent enough, but the truth was much different. In the early 1940s, $50 was the equivalent of more than $800 today, a code for men to hand over large sums without saying directly what it was for. Her glamorous lifestyle came with dangers, too. One of the most startling parts of the novella shows her visiting a gangster named Sally Tomato in prison. On the surface, she was just delivering weather reports, but in truth, those reports were coded messages about drug shipments. At first, she had no idea what she was caught up in, but later the reality set in. She had been a courier in a smuggling operation. And the story doesn't end with romance and charm, it ends with her arrest, her name splashed across headlines as part of a narcotics scandal. The narrator of Capote's novella was also very different from the film's version. In the book, he was unnamed. Capote filled the pages with subtle clues that he was gay. He had no romantic connection to Holly, no female love interests, and an outsider's way of looking at her world. But in 1961, Hollywood could not allow it. The film gave the narrator a name, Paul made him heterosexual, and gave him a predictable romance with Holly. Entire layers of queerness and identity that Capote had woven into the story were stripped away to satisfy censorship rules. The darkest part of Holly's past was softened even more for the screen. In the novella, her name was not even Holly Golightly. She had once been Lula Mae Barnes, a girl in rural Texas who became a child bride at 13, marrying an older man, Doc Golightly. It was a story of poverty, exploitation, and survival. But the film turned it into a small character detail, removing the unsettling truth that Holly had once been a child caught in an abusive situation. Few people realized that the song, Moon River, almost never made it into Breakfast at Tiffany's. When Paramount executives first screened the film, they worried it was running too long. Executive Martin Racken even announced that the quiet 2-minute ballad Audrey Hepburn sang on her fire escape should be cut. Composer Henry Mancini, who had written the melody to fit Hepburn's limited vocal range, was devastated. The turning point came when Audrey Hepburn herself stood up to the studio. Known for her grace and soft-spoken manner, she became firm and unyielding, declaring, "Over my dead body." Her determination forced the executives to back down, saving the scene that revealed Holly Golightly's fragile dreams. The decision paid off the following year. At the 1962 Academy Awards, Mancini and lyricist Johnny Mercer won the Oscar for Best Original Song. At the Grammy Awards, the song swept the night, winning Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Arrangement. The film's impact didn't stop with music. Audrey Hepburn's wardrobe, designed by Hubert de Givenchy, left an indelible mark on fashion history. His sleek black dress, worn in the opening scene as Hepburn looked into the windows of Tiffany & Co., redefined elegance. One of the original 3 versions of the dress sold at Christie's in London for an incredible $914, setting a record for a piece of movie costume. This dress cemented the idea of the little black dress as a must-have, a symbol of modern independence and timeless chic. Today, the film is viewed as a story not of glamour but of survival. Holly Golightly, often pictured as a carefree New Yorker, was in fact written as a deeply wounded woman who lost both parents to tuberculosis as a child, endured abusive foster care, and was married at just 14. Her mean reds, as she called her panic attacks, revealed a woman trying to mask trauma behind charm and elegance. Critics argue that understanding this side of Holly changes the entire film. Instead of a fairy tale, it becomes a portrait of a woman fighting for control of her life in a society that offered her few choices. Despite the debates, Breakfast at Tiffany's remains a cultural giant. In 2012, the Library of Congress preserved it in the National Film Registry, adding it to the small list of films deemed essential to American history. This honor, ironic to many given the ongoing controversies, confirmed the film's place in cultural memory, flaws and all. In the end, Breakfast at Tiffany's isn't just a romantic comedy, it's a window into an era, a story of survival, and a powerful reminder of how Hollywood has always reshaped reality. It's a film we can love, but also one we must understand in its full, complicated context. What did you think of the deeper story? Share your thoughts below. And if you want more behind the scenes film history, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell.